The Great Fence of Fairview. It was a crisp October morning in Fairview, a quiet suburb of Richmond, Virginia, when I stepped out onto my porch, coffee in hand, ready to start the day. My workshop, a sturdy shed at the edge of my property, was my sanctuary, where I ran my small carpentry business and restored a 1955 Ford pickup for the local Heritage Society. But that morning, my heart sank. Parked right in front of the shed's double doors was a gleaming white Cadillac Escalade, its bumper sporting a sticker that read, "Fairview Homeowner." Dolores had been a thorn in my side since I inherited this property from my father 10 years ago. My shed, just outside the HOA's legal boundary but within Dolores's line of sight, offended her vision of suburban perfection. She'd left notes about my unsightly tools, complained about delivery trucks, and once tried to fine me for painting my mailbox navy blue. But this? Parking her SUV to block my shed's only entrance was a new low. I tried calling her, no answer. I knocked on her door, nobody home. Her neighbor, Mrs. Jenkins, said Dolores was at her weekly book club, sipping wine and plotting her next crusade. I called a tow company, but they needed a police report. The sheriff's deputy who showed up shrugged, saying, "She's not on your land, just blocking it. It's rude, not illegal." That's when it hit me. Dolores knew the rules inside out. This was no accident. It was war. I sat on my porch, staring at her Cadillac, my coffee growing cold. Jobs were piling up, a lumber delivery was due, and I'd missed a call with the Heritage Society about the pickup's funding. Every minute her car sat there cost me money and reputation. Around noon, Dolores sashayed back, stepping out of a friend's convertible with a designer purse and a smug smile. I approached her calmly. "Dolores, your car's blocking my shed. I need it moved." She adjusted her sunglasses and said, "That shed's an eyesore, Tom. It's bringing down property values. You're lucky I haven't called the city." I pointed out it was my property, my business. She smirked. "I'm parked on the easement-neutral ground. Check the records." She dug up old property maps to justify her stunt. When I pressed her to move it, she said, "I'll get to it," and strutted inside. That was the moment something snapped. Not anger, clarity. I wasn't going to yell or beg. I was going to build. I called my buddy Ray, a bricklayer who owed me a favor. Over beers, we sketched a plan on a napkin, a low fence of cinder blocks around her Cadillac, just high enough to trap it without touching it, temporary enough to skirt county codes. Ray chuckled. "You're nuts, Tom. Let's do it." The next morning, while Dolores was off at yoga, Ray pulled up with a truckload of blocks and mortar. We worked like a pit crew, stacking a neat rectangle around her SUV, leaving an inch of clearance to avoid damage claims. We taped a sign to the blocks. "Fence stays until shed access is restored." By lunch, the job was done. I cracked a soda, sat back, and admired our handiwork. It was petty, poetic, and perfect. Then came the scream. Dolores stormed out, her loafers slapping the pavement, her face red as the blocks. "This is vandalism. I'll sue," she shrieked, circling the fence like a caged animal. Her poodle barked from the porch, confused. I stayed seated, sipping my drink, recording her meltdown on my phone. She ranted about lawsuits and community standards, but I just pointed to the property line. "My land, my fence, Dolores. Move your car, and it's gone." She stormed off, slamming her doors so hard her porch light flickered. I knew she'd escalate, and I was ready. An hour later, 2 HOA lackeys in polo shirts showed up, clipboards in hand, calling the fence unauthorized. I showed them my county permit for decorative fencing, filed months earlier for a garden project. They blinked, unprepared for my paperwork. "This isn't HOA land," I said. "Check your map." They muttered about legal action and left. Dolores didn't stop. She sent fake compliance inspectors to my yard at night, flashing cheap badges. I posted no trespassing signs and trail cams. Then she called the fire department, claiming someone was trapped in the fence. The fire chief, an old friend, saw through it and filed a false report warning against her. Each move she made dug her deeper. The neighborhood started to shift. Old Mr. Carter, who'd been fined by Dolores for his rose bushes, brought me iced tea and a grin. "Give her hell, Tom." The Wilsons, harassed for their kid's trampoline, dropped off a pie. People called the fence Dolores's cage. Then the bombshell. My lawyer, Sarah, discovered the HOA's charter had expired 2 years ago. Dolores had been collecting dues and issuing fines illegally. I mailed copies of the county's notice to every neighbor. The backlash was swift. Texts poured in hoc, anger, gratitude. A petition to dissolve the HOA gained traction. The local paper ran a story. Carpenter traps HOA chief's SUV, exposes rogue board. Dolores's face was everywhere, and she was crumbling. She tried to save face with a rambling Facebook post, blaming me for bullying and calling the charter issue a mistake. Neighbors tore it apart with screenshots and my camera footage. Former HOA members disavowed her. Her husband, Greg, knocked on my door one night, looking defeated. I let her go too far, he said. She's planning something big. Be ready. Sure enough, Dolores hired a crew to dismantle the fence, citing a shady visibility ordinance. I called the sheriff, armed with my permits and the HOA's expired charter. The deputy stopped the crew, warning Dolores about trespassing. She exploded, screaming, "How can a fence ruin my life?" I looked her in the eye. The community rallied. We held a meeting at my shed, chairs spilling into the driveway. Kids sold lemonade. Someone played music. I spoke briefly. This isn't about cruelty. It's about respect. The vote to dissolve the HOA was nearly unanimous. Dolores watched from her window, silent. The news returned, filming the fence and the pickup, now nearly restored. Their segment, "The Fence That Freed Fairview," went viral. Dolores vanished from public view, her curtains drawn, her Cadillac still trapped. A month later, Greg asked if I'd remove the fence so Dolores could get her car, promising no more trouble. I agreed, but not out of kind disclosure. Ray and I took down one side at dawn, stacking the blocks neatly. Dolores drove off without a word. We kept the other sides, turning the space into a community nook with a bench and bookshelf. Neighbors